His wife bought him a $2,000 guitar to chase his rock star dream. A year later, he used it as a clothes rack. It was not a conscious decision. It just happened. First, it was his work shirt, draped over the smooth curve of the body after a long day. Then a pair of jeans over the neck. Now, the beautiful Fender Stratocaster, a sunburst of color and promise, was just another piece of furniture, a silent monument to his failure. Every evening when David walked through the door, it was the first thing he saw. And every evening, a familiar wave of shame washed over him. His real antagonist was not his boring office job or his lack of time. It was that silent, six-string judge in the corner of his living room. Tonight, as he added a fresh shirt to the collection, his wife Emily walked in. She did not say a word. She just looked at the guitar, then at him. Her silence was louder than any accusation. In that moment, David made a choice. He would prove her wrong. He stormed over, pulled the clothes off, and sat down with the instrument. He de-show her. He de-show himself. But his fingers were clumsy, the strings bit into their soft tips, and the sound that came out was a discordant, buzzing mess. The silence in the room grew heavier, more suffocating. As he fumbled, Emily finally spoke, her voice dangerously soft. "My parents are coming for dinner on Saturday. They're so excited to hear you play something." The week leading up to that Saturday dinner was a slow-motion disaster. David's choice to prove himself had backfired, trapping him in a cage of expectation. Each night, he'd come home from work, his brain fried from spreadsheets and meetings, and stare at the guitar. It was no longer an invitation to a dream, it was a threat. He'd pick it up, his hands sweating. He'd try to force his fingers into chord shapes he'd seen on YouTube. The result was always the same, ugly, stuttering noises that made his teeth ache. The guitar felt alien in his hands, a beautiful tool he had no right to touch. His frustration grew into a quiet, simmering anger. He started finding excuses to stay late at work. He picked a fight with Emily about the grocery bill, anything to fill the silence that the guitar had created between them. On Friday night, the eve of the dinner, he hit his breaking point. He sat alone in the living room, the guitar on his lap, and tried to play a simple G chord. Bzzzzz. Thump. Dead note. He tried again. And again. A hot wave of self-loathing washed over him. He was not a musician. He was an imposter. Defeated, he made a final, desperate decision. He could not face the disappointment in her parents' eyes. He could not endure his own failure. He stood up, carried the $2,000 instrument to the hall closet, and buried it deep behind old winter coats and forgotten shoes. As he closed the door, the click of the latch sounded like a final judgment. The dinner was a nightmare of forced smiles and polite conversation. David felt like a fraud, his secret hidden just a few feet away in the darkness of the closet. Finally, Emily's father turned to him, a warm smile on his face. "So, David. Emily tells us you've become quite the musician." David's blood ran cold. He opened his mouth to form a lie, an excuse about being too busy, about a broken string, anything. But Emily cut him off. Dad, do not. Her voice was quiet, but it cut through the room. She turned to David, her eyes filled not with anger, but with a deep, shattering sadness. I should not have bought it for you, she said, her voice barely a whisper. It was a mistake. For a second, David felt a rush of pure relief. She understood. She was not judging him. This was his escape. But then she continued, and her next words twisted the knife. I was cleaning out the attic last week and found my old art supplies. My canvases, my charcoals. I remembered how much I loved to draw. She looked him straight in the eye. But the difference is, I never made you spend your savings on my abandoned dream. I never put my failure in the middle of our living room for you to look at every single day. The relief vanished, replaced by a shame so profound it felt like a physical weight crushing his chest. He was not just a man who had quit. He was a man who had carelessly turned someone else's sacrifice, someone else's belief in him, into a dirty laundry basket. He was at the absolute bottom. That night, long after her parents had left and Emily had gone to bed, David sat alone in the silent, dark living room. Her words echoed in his mind, I never made my failure a burden for you. And in that darkness, something finally clicked. The enemy was never the guitar. It was never Emily's quiet disappointment. It was his own suffocating ego. He was not afraid of failing, he was afraid of being a beginner. He wanted the glory of the rock star without the boring, painful, unglamorous work of learning the first chord. The guitar was not a burden. It was a gift of faith he had been too cowardly to accept. Quietly, he walked to the closet and pulled the fender from its tomb. He sat down, not with the frantic pressure to perform, but with a strange sense of calm. He did not try to play a song. He did not try to form a chord. He just placed his finger on a single string and plucked it. A clear, clean note filled the silence. He let it ring out until it faded. Then he played another. His new goal was not to play for her parents, or for Emily, or for some imaginary crowd. It was to learn how to play one note perfectly. That was all. Months passed. The pressure was gone, replaced by a quiet, daily ritual. 15 minutes, every day. No exceptions. One evening, Emily came home from work and stopped in the doorway. She heard music. Not a rock anthem, but a simple, clean melody, played with patience and care. She looked into the living room. David was sitting on the sofa, the sunburst guitar resting in his hands where it belonged. And on the chair beside him, neatly folded, sat a pile of his work clothes.